Todd Blanche, el fiscal general interino de Estados Unidos, fue acusado en el Senado de ocultar archivos de Jeffrey Epstein y proteger a Donald Trump, pero los republicanos avanzaron su nominación. Quédate hasta el final porque verás cómo la audiencia terminó en una guerra total. Y rápidamente no olvides suscribirte al canal para entender exactamente todo lo que está pasando en Estados Unidos y en español. Comencemos. Los senadores demócratas arremetieron en contra del fiscal general interino de Donald Trump, Todd Blanche, y arremetieron contra sus colegas republicanos en el Senado durante la audiencia que, bueno, hace unos días acabó de levantar. Se trató del Comité del Poder Judicial del Senado de los Estados Unidos para confirmar a Todd Blanche y enviar su nominación a una votación completa ante el Senado de los Estados Unidos. Quiero mostrarles lo que sucedió. El senador demócrata Whitehouse lideró el camino y permítanme mostrarles aquí cómo confronta a Todd Blanche y a Donald Trump por su encubrimiento de los archivos de Jeffrey Epstein. Miren, por favor.
Let's start with the Epstein files, where Todd Blanche participated in the cover-up, continues to participate in the cover-up, and is responsible for a massive screw-up of the release of the documents. Cover-up and screw-up on the Epstein files. What do I mean by cover-up? Well, first, they looked at 4 FBI 302s that were the testimony of a woman who told the FBI in a formal statement that she had been sexually assaulted and physically assaulted by Donald Trump around 13 or 14 years of age. Of those 4 302s, they released 1, the one that did not mention Donald Trump. Well, fortunately for transparency, these documents had been released in other areas and bait stamped. So people figured out that some were missing. And with that, the other 302s that mentioned Donald Trump had to be produced. Only because they got caught were those 302s produced. And right now, as we sit here, Todd Blanche is still sitting on 37 pages that are almost certainly the agent's notes off of which the 302s were taken. That should be disclosed under the Epstein files law, but instead, those 37 pages
Luego escuchamos al senador demócrata Adam Schiff, quien confrontó a Todd Blanche por violar todos los códigos de ética, engañar descaradamente al comité, incurrir en perjurio, ocultar y, bueno, encubrir también documentos e implicar al presidente de los Estados Unidos en los archivos de Jeffrey Epstein. Miren cómo el senador Schiff simplemente se hartó y arremetió. Miren, por favor.
So this is someone who has violated his code of ethics, blatantly, misled this committee in testimony, supported the establishment of a fund for cop beaters, concealed and covered up documents implicating the president in the Epstein files, gone after the president's enemies, and used the DOJ to enrich the president in a collusive settlement. Is this who we're prepared to confirm as Attorney General? It appears so. The fundamental problem with Todd Blanche is not that he's inexperienced, not that he's not capable, not that he's not intelligent. The problem with confirming Todd Blanche is that he has never been able to shed his role as criminal defense lawyer for Donald Trump. He just can't do it. He does not represent the American people now. He will never represent the American people. He will never do what's best for the American people. He will only do what's best for Donald Trump. And you cannot leave someone like that as the nation's #1 law enforcement official, not when you have a corrupt president engaged in the most unprecedented, self-enriching schemes we have ever seen. You just can't do it. and hope to have anything left of the rule of law. I urge a no vote on this confirmation, and I yield back.
We now turn to the
Luego tuvimos al senador Brooker hablando sobre cómo Todd Blanche trasladó a Ghislaine Maxwell de una instalación en Tallahassee, donde estaba encarcelada por participar en tráfico sexual de menores con Jeffrey Epstein, y la trasladó a la prisión de lujo en el Camp Bryant, en Texas. Ella obtuvo una recompensa por ayudar a encubrir cosas para Donald Trump. El senador Booker no se guardó nada. Miren, por favor.
Didn't get together to say, this is really bad. This is eroding trust in the justice system. This is eroding trust in the rule of law. We have to find a way to hold powerful people accountable. No, they came together with Todd Blanche in the room. How do we protect the president? And what happened after that? One of the most unusual things in the history of our country happened after that. Todd Blanche, at the highest heights of our Justice Department, ran to the prison of Ghislaine Maxwell. This is unprecedented. This is, lawyers tell me, untoward. This is corrupting. He didn't study the case files. He didn't talk to the prosecutors. No, he ran to the jail cell and met with her for 2 days, insulting every single Epstein victim that had been asking for a meeting for years. And after 2 days of meetings, did we get information that led to an indictment? No. Did we get information that led to new opens of investigations? No. Did we get one more conviction? No. What did we get? That a convicted sex offender was able to leave her confinement and go to the cushiest prison in our land, that by Bureau of Prison Law, by DOJ law, is a violation of their principles. So Ghislaine Maxwell is sitting in the lowest possible confinement after giving no information that helped us get one more investigation started, and has been silent. And the man responsible for that, we are about to make the Attorney General of the United States of America. This man is not our lawyer. He is not America's lawyer. He is about to become Trump's sword against his adversaries and shield against any scrutiny. The shield is going to shield him from tax cheating. The shield is going to shield him from investigation for any involvement he may have had in Epstein's deeds. And the sword, I've seen it. Unprecedented that the Attorney General should investigate colleagues here on this committee. This is farcical.
Ahora, más del senador Whitehouse justo aquí. Miren, por favor.
And then you get to Ghislaine Maxwell, where a deputy attorney general flew to Tallahassee to have a private meeting with a woman convicted of participating in Epstein's depravity. And what was the upshot of that meeting? Was it to get more information about who else was culpable, about whose secrets were still being kept? No. It was to get exculpatory information about Donald Trump and then reward her with a move to a club-fed prison. Now, the nominal excuse for that is, oh, she was in danger in her earlier prison, so we had to move her. How often does a prisoner allegedly facing threats or danger get moved to a less secure facility? I mean, think about it. It doesn't pass the test of common sense. So, between the botched disclosure, which revealed victims of Epstein's depravity, whose names had not been previously known, in some cases with photographic images with their addresses, in some cases photographs without being fully clothed, Where does the buck stop for that if not with Mr. Blanche? That was an epic botch that did real harm to Epstein's victims. Voting for this guy today gives their blessing to the screw up, to the botched release that even Pam Bondi pointed at Blanche as responsible for. And it gives the blessing to his continuing role in the cover-up of Epstein files.
Aquí tenemos más del senador Schiff. Miren, por favor.
Let me ask you about another matter. You have your name on. I don't think you can deny responsibility here. And that is the IRS settlement agreement. So
Yes.
you put your name on this. That absolves the president of tax liabilities in the past. The president was convicted in the case you represented him in of falsifying business records in part for tax purposes. Does this settlement not absolve the president of any liability for tax crimes associated with what he's already been convicted of?
That's not what he was convicted of. It not having to do with
Well,
for tax
I'm happy to
purposes.
read the statement of facts. The participants took steps that mischaracterized for tax purposes the true nature of the payments made in furtherance of this scheme. So you know,
The
Mr.
participant
Blanche,
there was not the president. It was somebody else.
well, if the president is conspiring with others to falsify business records to help them cheat on taxes, he is also exposed to liability. You know that as well as I do.
He can't be audited for that.
And of course he can be. Of course he can be. And he can be prosecuted for it. But the agreement you signed on behalf of your former client, on behalf of your current client, in a staggering example of self-dealing prohibits that. Let me ask you this. Does this tax agreement, this addendum you signed, also hold him harmless from any audit or tax liability with respect to the billions in crypto money he made in his first year as president?
It's not forward-looking. So to the extent there are taxes filed by the president or his sons or the Trump organization after the date of that agreement, there's no protection.
Well, but before that agreement. So any
So he hasn't
taxes-
filed taxes
so
yet
any-
for money he made last year, right? So
Yes.
no.
So if he
So no protection.
if he filed tax returns this year for money he earned last year, that his sons earned, that his World Liberty Financial, all those people earned and defrauded taxpayers on it, he faces no liability under this
no
agreement you
evidence. There's
signed.
no evidence taxpayers were defrauded, and he
But
is not
there's
protected. He
evidence
is
in
not
this
protected.
agreement that
not
you've
protected.
absolved him of any liability over.
No, I
it.
just said he's not absolved. So the question
So this
was,
agreement doesn't apply to a tax return filed last year
To
or
tax
filed this
returns
year.
to tax returns filed after the date of the agreement? No,
No,
it does not
before the
apply.
agreement. A tax return filed in this calendar year before this agreement.
Before the agreement, it applies, not
Yes,
after.
okay, so for a tax return filed this year for last year, for the billions he made, there is no tax liability, even if he cheats on his taxes or his kids do or his business do. He is absolved of that further potential liability.
No.
Well, it's in the plain language of your agreement. Did you write this language?
You
by the
have to
way?
use the facts, though.
Did
that
you-
He hasn't
did
filed
you-
taxes yet. So when he files taxes, there's no protection based upon this agreement.
Luego, el senador Whitehouse habla sobre cómo el fondo fiduciario corrupto para los insurrectos del 6 de enero y la estafa de la amnistía fiscal para la familia de Donald Trump, y me encanta la forma en la que Whitehouse presentó esto, sostuvo estos pedazos de papel que Todd Blanche publicó en redes sociales el otro día. Uno pretendía ser una orden que revocaba el fondo para los insurrectos del 6 de enero, y el otro era un comunicado de prensa no firmado que decía actualización sobre el anexo del 19 de mayo. El comunicado de prensa ratificaba que Donald Trump y su familia obtienen amnistía fiscal total. Lo ratificaba, lo confirmaba. El otro documento es inaplicable, no fue firmado por todas las partes y no revocó el acuerdo de conciliación. Una nueva orden simplemente podría ponerse en marcha diciendo, en realidad, si vamos a financiar a los insurrectos del 6 de enero, pero Todd Blanche y los republicanos del movimiento MAGA en el comité del Senado dicen, bueno, simplemente tenemos que confiar en Trump. Solo Donald Trump y Todd Blanche dicen que no van a hacer nada con el fondo del 6 de enero. Así que simplemente confíen en ellos. Miren, por favor.
So next we get to this crooked slush fund Trump family tax amnesty scam. Let's take a look at that. We've got these two new pieces of paper, one signed only by Todd Blanche, one not signed by anybody. neither of which has any legal effect whatsoever. They are decorative. So what problems do they leave behind? Well, one is, can you trust Todd Blanche going forward? I will tell you, I do not. I think it would be unreasonable to trust him going forward. There is enough weasel room in these documents to drive a truck through. And what might that truck look like? Well, you could get rid of the Anti-weaponization fund for $1.776 billion, and in a month, put out the Trump Justice Fund for $1.9 billion. Nothing in this document prevents anything like that from happening. You could open a drive-up window at the Department of Justice for cop beaters from January 6 to come through and get friendly Federal Tort Claims Act settlements from the Department of Justice. They're already handing out settlements to Trump's allies. What's to prevent the drive-up window? Come on in. Here we are. We got the friendly form for you to file, and here's a check. Nothing prevents the cop beaters from being funded by the Trump Department of Justice. But let's assume that we really have made a big improvement here. Let's assume that the burglar has been forced to give back some of the jewelry he stole. Being forced to give back some ill-gotten gains doesn't mean you're not still a burglar. There's a question of the man's character, that he was willing to get into these schemes in the first place.
Absolutamente indignante, y siempre dije, por cierto, que, bueno, en el comité del 6 de enero era una cortina de humo para Donald Trump. Era una cortina de humo para que Donald Trump quisiera darse amnistía fiscal a sí mismo y a sus empresas para que no tengan que, bueno, pagar impuestos y no sean auditados por todos los impuestos que él no ha pagado. Es lo más ridículo, es el abuso de poder más corrupto, criminal, repugnante, impresentable y delictivo. Es lo peor imaginable, es el peor comportamiento en tiempos normales. El senador Blumenthal habla sobre el supuesto paso atrás de Todd Blanche al fondo fiduciario y miren cómo lo plantea el senador Blumenthal. Miren por favor este clip.
Donald Trump in the United States of America to settle his case. Now, Todd Blanche purports to change it. This document is a sham. It is a sham and a fraud on the Congress insofar as it seeks to change our minds by representing something that is patently false. Commentators have talked about loopholes. There are no loopholes here. This document itself is a sham. In fact, one of its statements is that it incorporates all of Todd Blanche's testimony before this committee. I want to hold up one part of that testimony. Todd Blanche himself says that that agreement is an enforceable document. So I suppose if President Trump's counsel sought to enforce it, potentially they could. Of course they could. Tomorrow, Donald Trump's counsel can go to court and seek to establish that trust fund, that thug fund. Senator Tillis called it a payout to punks fund, if he chooses to do so. It is an enforceable agreement no matter what Todd Blanche says about it. And if you don't believe me, you can listen to one of the most ardent advocates of that anti-weaponization fund who said the quiet part out loud on Twitter. just recently, Mike Howell, who Chairman Grassley called as a witness before this committee last year, retweeted Mr. Blanche's announcement with his own commentary, quote, "can be undone after Tuesday. The anti-weaponization fund is great." The President of the United States yesterday in the Oval Office repeated his commitment to the anti-weaponization fund. We don't need to say the quiet part out loud. The President is shouting it.
Aquí tenemos más del senador Adam Schiff. Miren, por favor.
Or as my colleague from North Carolina says, brings a Seychelles case. How absurd is that? Can there be any doubt that that was brought simply because he's on the president's enemies list? I know I'm on that list. The president reiterated just the other night that he hates me, which I could tell you wounds me deeply. He's entitled to his own views about me or anybody else. He is not entitled, however, to use the Department of Justice to go after his political opponents. And the day we say that's okay, and the day we confirm an attorney general who says that's okay, is the day that the rule of law becomes merely an unenforceable idea, a quaint acknowledgement of a past Justice Department in which the rule of law once mattered. We should not confirm an attorney general who believes the president has a right and a duty to use him to go after his enemies.
Ahora, si se estaba preguntando, bueno, ¿qué están diciendo los republicanos del movimiento MAGA? Miren, personas como Tilly, Corney dijeron anteriormente que no apoyarían la confirmación de Todd Blanche, que no apoyarían la nominación a menos que el acuerdo de conciliación que Donald Trump celebró con el Departamento del Tesoro y el IRS fuera rescindido con un documento escrito que revocara dicho acuerdo, no simplemente emitiendo una orden no vinculante e inaplicable con respecto al fondo de los insurrectos del 6 de enero, no, sino revocar el acuerdo de conciliación y declarar que queda rescindido entonces. ¿Qué está diciendo Tillis en este momento? Bueno, Tillis dijo, ya saben, miren a Biden, miren a Obama, miren la operación Crossfire Hurricane. Mientras todas estas otras personas eran corruptas, eran muy corruptas, ni siquiera sé con qué Crossfire Hurricane, no. Donald Trump ha destruido abiertamente el sistema de justicia. No hay comparación, no es lo mismo, pero bueno, esto es lo que son estos republicanos del movimiento MAGA. Son seres humanos deplorables, no por ser republicanos, como seres humanos. Personas como estas son seres humanos deplorables. Cuando destruyes el Estado de Derecho, cuando tu única razón de existir es lograr que Donald Trump le roba al pueblo estadounidense, sí, eso te convierte en un ser humano deplorable. Deberías de preocuparte por tu prójimo, no de una manera política. Deberías de querer que la gente, la verdad, obtenga una mejor vida. Deberías de querer que la gente se pague un salario justo. Deberías de querer que a la gente se le pague un salario justo. Deberías de querer que la gente pueda acceder a una vivienda. ¿Cómo es posible que tengas que darle todo su dinero al maldito Donald Trump? ¿Cómo es posible que tengas que darle todo tu dinero a Donald Trump? Ahí me pregunto yo, ¿qué demonios está pasando? ¿Qué desgraciados que son? Miren, por favor.
No, the thing that interests me, and I'm kind of curious about the speeches that come after here, is how everybody has this view of they are as pure as the driven snow, and it's the other side that has a problem. I think we both have a problem, folks. If you want to talk about weaponization, take a look at the Biden administration. Take a look at the Obama administration. Take a look at Crossfire Hurricane. Take a look at the codes that Lois Lerner used in the IRS to target businesses to try and...
Y miren a Corney justo aquí. Él dice, miren, denle algo de tiempo a Todd Blanche. Denle espacio. Hará lo correcto. Miren, por favor.
Their assertion on behalf of the United States of America that the weaponization fund is dead. And of course, I expect them to live up to that in any future litigation. Given this agreement with Mr. Blanche, I expect the department to live up to this in future litigation, and I will vote to advance him out of the committee today. But my vote to advance Mr. Blanche's nomination goes beyond this document. We need a stabilizing force at the Department of Justice, and Mr. Blanche deserves the opportunity to provide that, as opposed to continuing to serve in an acting capacity and as the Deputy Attorney General.
Y finalmente tenemos al senador Whitehouse. Así fue como concluyó esta audiencia. Miren, por favor.
The last question that I'm left with here is what's left of this committee? What's left of this committee when we don't demand straight answers from witnesses? How many times has this Department of Justice been asked, what became of the $50,000 that the FBI reported that it handed to Mr. Homan in a bribery sting? That's administrative stuff. That gets reported. There's an account. You've got to check the money out. If you get the money back, you've got to check the money back. There's an administrative trail. We can't get any information about that. Our Republican colleagues see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. Kash Patel virtually certainly lied to this committee sitting in front of us. Is there any interest in that? At a time when Republicans in Congress seem agitated about Biden officials lying to Congress? We got lies right here, folks. I don't know where this committee goes after it stops being taken seriously, because all you have to be is on the right partisan side to get this committee to roll over and play dead. Thank you, Chairman.
Senator Klobuchar.
Y luego, bueno, se tomó la votación. Te los voy a mostrar para que ustedes puedan escuchar a todas las personas que terminaron votando por Todd Blanche para que les pidan cuentas. Todos los republicanos votaron por Todd Blanche, todos los demócratas votaron en contra de Todd Blanche y saben, bueno, cómo es esto de una cuestión partidista. Esto es una cuestión americana. Debería de ser una cuestión americana. Todd Blanche es el tipo más no cualificado, inmoral y más sinvergüenza que no debería estar cerca de este cargo. Y esto es punto y final. Miren, por favor.
Turn to the nomination of Todd Blanche to be Attorney General. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Cruz.
Aye.
Mr. Hawley.
Aye.
Mr. Tillis.
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy. Aye. Mrs. Blackburn. Aye. Mr. Schmidt.
Aye.
Mrs. Britt. Aye. Mrs. Moody. Aye. Ms. Graham. Aye. Mr. Durbin.
No.
Mr. Whitehouse.
No by proxy.
Ms. Klobuchar.
No.
Mr. Coons.
No.
Mr. Blumenthal.
No.
Ms. Rono. Mr. Booker.
No.
Mr. Padilla.
No.
Mr. Welch.
No.
Mr. Schiff.
No.
Chairman Grassley.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 12, the nays are 10.
The nomination will be favorably reported. Before we adjourn, I have some letters I want to put in the record from, well, I'm not going to bother to read it. It's not worth reading at this point. The meeting's adjourned.
Y luego, después de que concluyó la votación, el senador Cornyn estuvo como sí, no hay nada. Este es el senador republicano del movimiento MAGA de Texas, que dijo que solo apoyaría a Todd Blanche si había un documento escrito que, revocara el acuerdo de conciliación entre Donald Trump y el Departamento del Tesoro, lo cual no sucedió. Y Cornyn está como sí, no hay nada que podamos hacer, lo siento, nada que podamos hacer para frenar esto. Esto es lo que él dice. Miren, por favor.
Was saying as recently as yesterday that he likes the idea of this fund, that he wants to find some way to pay these people. Does that concern you as someone who's tried to fight against getting this anti-weaponization fund in place?
Well, there's nothing we could do to rein in the president when he said he likes the fund and he wishes it still exists, but the fact of the matter, it's dead. And that's all we could do under these circumstances. See you all.
Y luego Cornyn dice, sí. Y en cuanto a la idea de que el fondo del 6 de enero pueda ser reactivo, Todd Blanche nos ha dado su palabra de que no va a suceder. Así que ya saben, nos dio su palabra, démosle espacio, confíen en él. No tenemos otra alternativa más que aceptar su palabra. ¿A qué te refieres con que no tienes otra alternativa? O sea, ¿de verdad? ¿Acaso son extraterrestres? O sea, ¿quiénes son estos seres humanos? ¿Cómo que no tienes otra alternativa? Literalmente tienes más alternativas. La alternativa no es confiar al tipo que está encubriendo redes de tráfico sexual infantil. No confirmas al tipo que anda por ahí llevando 8.647 casos penales y que, por cierto, supervisó el caso del espejo de agua de Janie Pirro. Él ha supervisado 15.000 peticiones de habeas corpus concedidas y a Donald Trump perdiendo 15.000 veces en el Tribunal Federal. Él ha supervisado que el Departamento de Justicia no tenga presunción de regulación y que jueces de todos los partidos miren al Departamento de Justicia de Donald Trump como si fuera un buffet de pacotilla inhabilitado. En fin, miren por favor.
Senator, your Democratic colleagues say that this order from Blanche rescinding the fund isn't binding. Why do you disagree?
Well, the weaponization fund is dead. We pointed out that the Department of Justice has represented that to numerous courts. And as to the idea that it could be revived in the future, I think it's highly unlikely that that could happen without the cooperation of the Department of Justice. And I think Mr. Blanche gave us the assurances that it was dead and would not be revived. And in this case, we have no alternative but to take his word for that. But I think it's highly unlikely that it could be revived.
Pero bueno, amigos, con esto llegamos al final del video. Espero que les haya gustado. Si fue así, por favor, déjenmelo saber en los comentarios. Recuerden que si les gusta el contenido de política estadounidense, les va a encantar suscribirse al canal, ya que subimos videos como estos todos los días. Mi nombre es José Alvarado, yo soy economista y estoy comprometido a informarlos diariamente. Nos vemos en el siguiente video. Adiós.